Razorback Nation, welcome back into episode 35 of Hawgs on the Hill. You go to podcast for an in-depth dive into all things Arkansas Razorbacks. Join us as we dissect the victories, analyze the plays, and revel in the spirit of the Hawgs. As always, episode 35 is brought to you by Homefield. Step into the legacy of collegiate style with Homefield's premium vintage apparel. Embrace the spirit of your alma mater or even your favorite team with their meticulously crafted, comfortable, and stylish collections. Elevate your game day attire and celebrate the rich history of college sports. Homefield, where tradition meets modern comfort in every stitch. You can use promo code Variety Sports in all caps to receive 15% off that first order with baseball season slowly approaching. Go check them out. They have fantastic Razorback gear. They have the gear with the hitting and pitching ribbies on it, and all kinds of different logos throughout the eras. So go check them out, and you can receive 15% off that first order with the promo code Variety Sports in all caps. And welcome in, you guys. We're excited to be adding RazorbackHobbs to the show this baseball season to come in and bring some baseball insight to us. So welcome in the show, man. How's it going?
Man, I'm excited to be here. I'm doing great. Been looking forward to this for a while now. We're 23 days away, and I'm super excited.
Yeah, I can't get here soon enough, and that might have been eased up a little bit last night, but man, baseball season is a way of life around here in Northwest Arkansas, and everybody can't wait for it. Glad to see you in here for the first time, Joe. Hope you enjoy it and subscribe and become a consistent listener. But guys, let's just jump right in. Arkansas grabs their first conference win last night over Georgia in a ugly game, but a win's a win. 68-65, and man, what a game this was. Not pretty by any means, but Arkansas fought and scrapped and managed to come out victorious. So initial thoughts, you guys?
Yeah, man. It's about halftime, about 10 minutes into halftime, not game minutes, but just, actual minutes. I was like, I just need them to stop fouling so I can go to bed. I'm tired of this. And I was texting in my group with the guys at Razorbackers, and I'm like, you know what? This is just same old stuff. Even if Boogie was back, I don't know what's going to happen. And then they started to build it up a little bit, and everyone's like, "Oh, I got hope. We've got hope." And I'm like, I'm not doing that. I'm not giving up my hope yet. And I was still not giving my hope up until like the last 30 seconds. I was like, all right, now they're going to win it. They're going to go down here, get this last basket. And of course, Thero had to go up and get fouled and not get the basket. So I was a little worried because he's not the greatest free throw shooter. But he nails that first one, gets the rebound on the last, and puts it up for another 2 points. So yeah, it was a great, gritty, tough win for the Hawgs. They're down, dude. They got Boogie out. They have, Jeff Goodman over here writing hit pieces about John Calipari, and everyone in the nation was making fun of him. And to come out there and beat a team that, mind you, beat Kentucky not too long ago, it's a great feeling.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. So if there are any Kentucky fans, interventions, because you guys come in all the time. Just take a look at this for a few seconds. Just for a few seconds. Take a look. All right, that's good. We don't need to torture them that much. But
yeah, you talked about they beat Kentucky. They almost beat Auburn. They had Auburn on the ropes, and then Auburn came away with it. But honestly, I was about to go to sleep. 26 points in the first half. I didn't have much of hope. I'm not gonna lie. And then I was laying in bed and I was like, you know what? Let me check the score one more time. I checked the score and we're crawling back, and I'm like, no, let me turn back over. I'm gonna go to sleep. And then I'm like, you know what? Let me check it one more time. Checked it. It's a 1-point game. I said, hold up now. So I turned the TV back on, and we pulled it out. I'm very shocked with how poor we shot the ball. I was able to pull it out, but like you mentioned, we got to the line 34 times, and it was huge. And I'm very happy we finally got a conference win.
Yeah, it's a big deal. Finally, now we can relieve the stress of now we don't have to be worried about going 0-18 in conference play this year. And not to mention, for you guys to keep up with the metrics and everything, this is a quad one win for Arkansas. Arkansas has now 2 quad one wins under their belt. This game in Michigan, they're undefeated in all the other quads between 2 and 4. And then, all their losses have come from that quad one area for the most part. So, glad to see that coming. We got Oklahoma coming to town this weekend. Hopefully we can, bottle up some momentum from this game and take that over. But as you dive into this game, we talked about it the other night, when we did our kind of quick little emergency episode regarding Boogie and, what are minutes going to look like for these guys going forward? And are we going to see any of those other guys we kind of hinted at, maybe like a Melo Sanchez getting any playing time? That wasn't the case in this game. You saw every starter except for one play 30-plus minutes in this game. The only one that didn't play more than, 20 that was starting was Jonas Adu. He played 18 minutes in this game. You had Nelly Davis with 36, Thero with 34, Carter Knox with 34, and DJ Wagner with 33. Trevor Brazile gave you 11, 21 from Big Z. And then finally, the surprise to me, Billy Richmond with only 12 minutes in this game. I figured he'd be up closer to that 20-minute mark. But these guys played hard. And, poor shooting was the story of this night. Other than the free throw line, Arkansas shoots 31% from the field, going 18 of 58. And 13% from the three-point line, going 3 of 23, shooting 23 threes and only making 3. And you found out a way to win this game, but that comes from the free throw line where you hit 29 of 34, 85%. And a lot of those thanks to one Carter Knox who came up clutch late and down the stretch to get Arkansas back into this game.
Yeah, you and I we had lunch today and we were talking about, I guess a little bit of Carter Knox and Billy Richmond and who they reminded us of. And this one's a weird one for you guys. Now, I'm not talking about necessarily their game style, the way they play or their athleticism or anything like that. But Carter Knox reminded me of Ricky Council in the fact that Ricky would drive to the basket and I don't think he went to go get fouls, but I think that was part of the drive. Like he was really good at getting fouls and going in line and knocking them down. Now, if Carter Knox can be that for Arkansas, I mean, you can say whatever about the 3-point line. They could go 3 for 20 every single game, but if they're hitting 30, 28 shots at the free throw line, that don't matter. Now, obviously, that's not going to happen every single game, but having a guy that can get those fouls and make the shots is kind of what they've been missing. Now, we thought that maybe Thero was going to be that guy because he gets a lot of fouls too. He's very good at driving, but he doesn't hit his shots at the charity stripe. So I think that's a really good thing that they found. And you and I talked about how he's not going to not stop shooting the 3 either. So that means people are going to have to, respect him at the 3-point line. So if he's going for a shot and they have to get back quick to defend him, he could, try to drive toward the basket and get an easy foul. And the fouls yesterday put Georgia in big trouble. They had six guys with 4 fouls with a couple minutes left, and 2 of them ended up fouling out. So I think that's going to be a good thing going forward. And you and I kind of talked about Richmond too, being a little bit, the energy guy, and he just needs a little bit more work, fine-tuning some stuff, being a little bit less sloppy whenever he's out there trying to, bring up the energy. And I kind of thought he was more like a Trey Wade guy. Again, not necessarily how they play, but just what role they bring to the team. And if he can get to where he's handling the ball a little bit better, but playing great defense, that's going to be something that will be beneficial too.
Yeah, I mean, you talk about Carter Knox. I mean, he's a 5-star. So, and he hadn't really played like it up until this point, until last night. But like you mentioned, he was the spark plug in the second half. He helped bring his team back. And really, when Boogie went down, I was thinking, this is either going to go two ways. The team's just going to quit. But I didn't really believe that, because it's still Coach Cal we're talking about. It's a Hall of Fame coach. It was either going to go south bad, or the team was going to rally together and they were going to find guys to step up without Boogie in the lineup. And you saw with Carter Knox last night, Big Z played more minutes. He did miss a wide open three towards the end of the game that would have sealed it, but he did hit the three before the half. That was huge. And then you mentioned Thero. He's unstoppable when he gets to the rim. Like you said, just got to hit his free throws, which he did last night. If he can build on that, we can really play just I don't want to say sloppy, but we can really keep games low scoring against these teams that have high-powered offense like Kentucky, Mississippi State, teams like that, Auburn. If they can play physical and just keep games close, they can stay in it by getting to the free throw line.
Yeah, that gritty, hard-knock type basketball.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I mean, that's a big point, like you said, with you look at it with Boogie going out, there's going to be only limited options of what was going to happen. And, Transplant Texan here says, no hit on Boogie, but Cal kind of forced Boogie to be a leader on this team as a freshman and focus the play around him, showcasing him, getting ready for the NBA. But now without Boogie, you see these other lineups, combinations, and natural leadership rising up, and with luck for a win. And so, if we can just build upon, what we saw, and, establish the type of basketball that we're going to be playing without Boogie now, and, that now being down an 8-man rotation, the big key is going to be playing smart defense and, not racking up the fouls, because you lose 1 to 2 guys, you're probably not winning that game, because you had Thero and Brazil both with 4 fouls last night, getting close to fouling out, especially Brazil. He got 3 of those fouls in that first half. So we'll see what happens going down the stretch. Yeah, like you said, Joe, Cal has one guy when he got here in April, kind of 2 if you kind of count, like you had Brazil that came back, but then Lawson Blake, the walk-on, the guy that has stayed true to this Razorback team. And, like Joe says here, the reality is this team has not had enough time together, and Boogie injury helped really get this team going. Pigpen, I think you're like a lot of people falling asleep, waking up to see a win is great. But, yeah, those late tip-offs make it tough, especially at 8 o'clock. I was surprised with the turnout. Austin, I was talking about that at lunch today. The turnout, I feel like for an 8 o'clock tip-off was pretty decent. And then, the late in that second half when we kind of started making our run and really made this competitive game, it gave me, close vibes to, what you think of when you think of Bud Walton. It was loud and it was getting rowdy. Something that you haven't really seen much of this season from Arkansas and the building with attendance and things like that.
Yeah. I even made a joke about it whenever it started to get rowdy. Whenever they got within, I think 5 is whenever it really started to come up. And I'm like, this is the most hype Bud's been this year. So don't waste it. Like, go out there and use it and build on it. I mean, it's a dangerous weapon if it's used. If you can get Bud Walton going, ask Cal. Whenever he was kicked out a few years ago, here in Bud, he had players on the sideline holding their ears because it was so loud. Like, it's a big weapon for them, and if they can get people inspired, get people up out of their seats, it's just going to help them. And going out and coming back after being down so much, that not only helps the fans in Bud Walton, but the ones that are going to be there in the next game, and the next game, and the next game, because you know what? It shows us as fans that you're not done fighting. You're not, just because your star point guard is out for the season doesn't mean you're done fighting for this team and for this university and for this fan base. So overall, I think it's just a great. This win is something they needed desperately on multiple levels, and they achieved that. Now, if they could just play a little bit better offense, make a few more shots, that'll be great. Also, something we haven't talked about yet is rebounding. They out rebounded Georgia by, I think, 10.
Yeah, I was about to
And
say,
they
Austin
had
just read my mind there.
Yeah.
That's
And
huge.
they had, which I mean, it's crazy because I don't think they've out rebounded anyone this year. Maybe some of the directional schools at the beginning of the season, but they come in there and do it against Georgia, who that's one of their things. They're one of the best defensive teams in the country. Rebounding is their thing, and to have I can't remember off the top of my head. Let me pull
The
that
rebounding margin, we out rebounded them 40-10. And
What are
you had
offensive rebounds, 18. 18 offensive rebounds, had 33 second chance points. Second chance points, and I think like 23 of them were in the second half. But second chance points and free throws is what won this game, and they hadn't done that all season long.
Yep. Yeah. About the home court, I'll say this. I know fans 0-5 start to SEC play. You're not happy. All right. Caleb, you went to the game last night. You cheered them on. You weren't happy at being 0-5. You weren't happy at halftime down 12. And it's understandable. But, this team needs the fans at any home game. They really need them to be loud. They need to be, I know you're going to have moments where there's nothing to cheer about. But the team is playing with a lot of energy. They're playing with a lot of intensity. They're trying to play together. Like Joe said, they're trying to figure it out playing together. So we're going to need them from every home game. I mean, we almost beat Ole Miss at home. And who was it? Who else did we almost? Florida at home.
Yeah, you had Florida on the ropes as well. If you make free throws, you might win that one.
We all know how loud Bud Walton can get, and that place can get crazy. And they showed the student section on TV a lot last night. So I think now that school's back, we're getting into the heart of SEC play. I think we are going to have some good crowds. They finally won a game, so hopefully they can carry that momentum. Another home game on Saturday. We need it to be loud again. That's a huge deal because home court in college basketball is everything.
100%. That's something that's hard to, replicate, especially on the road. And, some of these other schools, it's just really tough. And, that's the thing that we talked about a lot this year. And, hopefully maybe this game can also help increase, that fan attendance too. Cause, that's been the big thing in story of the year is like you have a Hall of Fame head coach and your attendance has been very lackluster. And then, finally you get it going last night, get a good win. And I think it's going to be exciting. Like we said, Oklahoma coming to town, they're a 14-4 team with some decent wins on the season. If you look at their schedule early in the season, as soon as you hit conference play, they finally got their first conference win over Oklahoma or South Carolina the other night. But you look at them entering conference play as well. They lose by 30 to Alabama. You barely lose to Texas A&M. You lose to this Georgia team by 10. You lose to Texas, your rival, by 4. And then you finally pick up your win. So you look at their non-con schedule. Most impressive win there comes over that Michigan team that Arkansas did beat 87-86. They beat Arizona 82-77. But, I'm not too worried, but we'll have to see. I think there's going to be definitely some things to look at going forward. But who knows? I mean, we'll see. Pigpen says, I know you mentioned it last night, Austin. He says he thinks we learned that Nelly's not necessarily a point guard. His knee did more dribbling than anything. So I think what you saw more of last night that I liked is you saw instead of DJ Wagner being that guy that kind of flashes and does those screens running around off ball like he did whenever Boogie was bringing the ball down. You saw Nelly doing more of that. And, even Cal in his post game last night said Nelly's really close. He's really close to kind of really figuring it out. We wish that would happen sooner than later. But as soon as he does, that could be big for this team.
Yeah, and I've been talking about how I want to see him at the point, and I was a little underwhelmed too. But there were some plays, especially there at the end. They had that I don't know what they called it, but they had DJ running from side to along the baseline, side to side, and those plays really worked for DJ. They did not work very well for Davis. So I kind of like him having the ball at the top like that. Still, I think he can help DJ Wagner be that off-ball guard that I think he can be a really good one. Like, I think whenever he goes to the NBA, he's going to play point. But I think right now he's the only one that's going to be able to play without the ball in his hand. That being said, he can still, they can do it vice versa. But like you said, I mean, Nelly is just something's just a little off. And I'm hoping, because you know how shooters are, sometimes they'll go on streaks and sometimes they'll just be dead. I'm hoping that this is the dead part. And then for like the last half of the season, the dude can't miss. Obviously, crossing my fingers, I'm not saying that's going to happen. But to be completely frank, it has to. They don't have anyone else. You and I were talking, they only have two guards, right? They're playing Knox like a guard, and they're playing Billy Richmond like a guard. They had Billy Richmond take point before they had Nelly take point. I was like, are you kidding me? What the heck is going on? And like the very next time they go down, Nelly had the ball. I was like, okay, all right, fine. But they're switching these guys in and out because they don't have any guards, and that has to do with the 9-man roster. And we've talked about it so much, and it's been probably the reason why this team one of the biggest reasons why this team hasn't really succeeded. But they're just going to have to do what they got to do now. They've got to be creative. I think this is the most creative that Cal's going to have to be to actually have a successful team, probably since UMass, you would think.
Yeah.
I mean, one of the biggest criticisms from Jeff Goodman in his piece, I don't know if you guys read it, was that John Calipari's been bolstered by the talent that he's brought in. He's not, a Hall of Fame coach necessarily. He's just a Hall of Fame recruiter. And I think if they can be successful this year, it's going to flip that narrative.
Well, I don't know Jeff Goodman or whatever, but part of coaching is recruiting. So, it is what it is. But I mean, he did win a national championship. So, but a lot of what I'm saw last night was the offense wasn't just standing around. So you had to do something with Boogie going down. You couldn't just rely on him to try to drive and do something. There was a lot of moving around. I kept seeing Nelly trying to go through a screen, come back, vice versa. So they're trying to create the offense. And honestly, with how bad they shot, a lot of those shots were open. And if they can just start getting some of them to fall, this is a different team we're talking about in a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
And a lot of this, when you talk about getting to March Madness, it's about who's hot. It's about who you playing and who's hot. So where you get seated. So if they can sneak in, I think JC Hoops was talking about, he's thinking that Arkansas can get into the NCAA tournament. I know we're talking about NCAA tournament. We just won our first conference game, but he's thinking they can get into the NCAA tournament with 7 conference wins. That's only 6 more. And how many games we got left? 10? 10 or 11? So
Still a hard thing to do, man.
it's
This
a hard thing to do,
insane.
but if they can they can steal one on the road and win the home games, it's possible. And then SEC tournaments there too. That'd be tough to do, but they can sneak in 9, 10 seed. I mean, and they get hot. You never know. I mean, we beat the 1 seed Gonzaga. We've done it before. We beat 1 seed Kansas. We've done it twice. We can do it again.
Yeah. You know, that's
or they could just go in and win the SEC tournament too.
That's possible too. Joe Johnson did that. So
yeah, that's going to be big, a big if. You know, we talked about it a few weeks ago. You know, we finally got the game where they showed us they could win. So, you know, now it's, you know, continuing to figure this out without Nelly. You know, it's like Transplant Texan says here, you know, Janelle Davis, he didn't step up as we kind of hoped or expected him to. He had unforced turnovers, dribbling off his knee, and feet hurts when he's not scoring. He's very much a liability. But on the flip side of that, if you can get him on track, he could be a key to, you know, saving the season for Arkansas. And, you know, that's another thing I'm just saying says here, you know, that Cal said in his post game, they're working on installing some pieces of the type of offense he ran at FAU to really help him feel more comfortable and kind of get back to, you know, that player we thought we were getting as the number 2 overall player in the transfer portal. So big point here. Losing Boogie does force him to kind of abandon that mission of his of, you know, improving these, you know, kids' lives and getting players in the NBA and, you know, unlocking that piece of, you know, the classic Cal that, you know, can come out and coach and, you know, really, like he said, and, you know, if you saw the clip of him in the locker room, he is like, let's write our own ridiculous, crazy story. I mean, he's confident that we can turn things around. And, you know, if these guys, we get a win, they can start believing. Like he said, if he told the guys in the locker room, if you can keep this close, I will drag you guys over the finish line, over hot coals to get us there. He said, I just need you guys to help me keep this close. And so, you know, I think these guys are buying in. If they can do that and Cal can help them get it there, then, you know, you never know. There could be a change to the season. You know, we go on a run. You know, if we pick up a win Saturday, you know, you get a week off. Who knows? Maybe surprise some people in Rupp. I mean, there's some winnable-ish games throughout the rest of the schedule that could help you get to that 7-win mark.
Yeah. Still, it's going to be hard, man. This team, this conference is filled with those quad 1 wins that we're talking about, right? So the thing is, I don't think there's a loss on the rest of the schedule that's going to hurt Arkansas. So you can look at it like that. Like, they got nothing to lose. They really don't. You lose a game, okay, so you can lose 3 more. It's not a big deal. Just go out there and play your hardest. Play, you know, have fun. That's what Cal talked about right after the game when he talked with the guys from SEC Nation or Network or whatever it is. That just go out and have fun. We got to be the people that have the most fun on this court, and that's pretty much what they got to do. They got nothing to lose. Because everybody has their preconceived notions already, and a lot of people are wanting him to fail. So what? You know, they've been laughing at him for the last few weeks. What if you lose another game? They're just going to do it. You're used to it. Go out there and have some fun, play your ball, and you know what? You'll probably get a couple more wins. Yeah,
it's like you said, they got that monkey off their back of getting that first win. Now they can go out and, you know, like you said, have fun, play their game. And, you know, like you said, he's going to be a better coach from this, and these guys are going to be better players from this and, you know, having to go through, you know, this trial of, you know, and a good point is a lot of these guys, you know, these 5-star guys, Adu coming from Tennessee, Nelly Davis coming from FAU. A lot of these guys aren't necessarily used to losing. And for them to go 0-5 straight losses in conference play, majority of these guys, that's probably tough for them because they're not used to losing basketball games. I mean, Jonas Adu coming from Tennessee, you look at the run they had last year, Nelly Davis, the run that he had at FAU for 2 years. These 5-star guys on their high school team and an AAU ball and all the different circuits they travel, these guys are winning and playing against each other all the time. So, this is probably a new thing for a lot of these guys that, they're figuring out, hey, we went through this losing streak. What do we got to change to fix this and get back on track?
Yeah, they you could see that in the losses. Like you could see when the shots weren't falling and they would get close in those games. LSU on the road, they could have easily won that game. You could see when the shots didn't fall and then the shots fell for LSU, they kind of shrugged their shoulders a little bit because they're like, we're not used to this. What is this? And one thing last night, very important, they learned how to win a game in the SEC when the shots weren't falling. That's huge. That means that, hey, we're not, when you missed a 3, so what? We can still win this game. And you talk about the SEC. This is the best the conference been since I can remember. This is ridiculous. It's almost compared to the SEC baseball type level, how good this conference is. It's ridiculous.
Cal even referenced that, early in the season. He said, if you looked at how loaded this, conference was, you'd think it's SEC baseball. Yeah. And, he was talking about how, looking at the schedule, he was like, man, are we that win that everybody's like circles like, okay, yeah, that's a good give me win right there. And I think this could be a record year for the SEC with a number of teams that are good this year. You could see potentially a record number of teams that get into the NCAA tournament from a singular conference.
Yeah, and if you'd have told me at the beginning of this athletic season that basketball would be a better conference, SEC basketball would be a better conference than SEC football, I'd be like, nah, you're not, no way. But SEC football kind of fell a little bit this year. I don't think that they're dead like a lot of people in the media does. But I mean, the Big Ten was good. Some Big 12 teams were okay. The ACC is trash.
Yeah.
But and that's weird too. Is that the ACC in basketball isn't that great either. I mean, there's Duke and Clemson at the top, and then Louisville up there too. But that's about it. And I mean, that's basically what's over there in football. So it's just an odd year, just all the way around. It's weird.
Yeah. But hey, maybe this is the win that Arkansas needs to kind of turn some things around. Like we said, it's kind of the same message that it's what you got to take for it. If you can take some momentum from this game, these guys, all right, they got it under the belt. They scratched and clawed, and like you said, when the shots weren't falling, they found the way to win. They hit, their free throw shooting 85%. That was big, and that's what you got to do when the regular shots aren't falling. Take those, give me free throws, and capitalize on that. So they'll be back in action on Saturday against Oklahoma at 7:30 tip-off. So it's another semi-late game. And then they got a week to prepare as they will head to Rupp to take on Big Blue Nation, Cal's former team. I'm sure that's going to be a lot of storylines going into that game. There's probably going to be a lot of emotion in that game. You got to think Cal's going back to Rupp, DJ Wagner, Adu Thero, Big Z, all going to Rupp. Even Carter Knox and Billy Richmond, who were recruited and were committed to Kentucky, probably had a lot of visits there, been to a lot of games there. It's going to be a big storyline and fun to watch. And, I was perfectly fine at the way the season was going, saying, hey, if we only get one win in SEC, give me us going in and taking care of business in Kentucky. So we'll see what happens, with a lot of emotion, could be some cheapiness. I'm here for it. I can't wait to see, what happens in that game.
Yeah, I'm just the whole lead up to this, because I mean, KSR over there in Kentucky, you know, they write almost as much Arkansas content as they do Kentucky content. You know, Matt Jones, the third best Matt Jones that I know. He's obsessed, and I mean, you and I kind of talked about it today too. He's over there having, you know, Twitter wars with Jay Williams and people from ESPN, and they're like, "Well, I'll come on your show and talk about." Yeah, and I'm like, dude, seriously, just stop. It's kind of a little bit pathetic. It's like the guy who gets, you know, broken up with, and he just goes and stalks his ex. That's basically BBN right now. Like, dude, stop. Put a restraining order on or something.
Well, it's like, seems like they're, you know, they would rather be happy. You know, they're happier seeing Arkansas lose than, you know, when Arkansas wins. I know you had a Kentucky fan call into Inside Arkansas John Neighbors show that said, you know, he was asking how he was doing. He was like, I'm doing great. You know, got to see that nice LSU victory the night after LSU beat us. And it's like, man, Kentucky played and won. And you're happy about Arkansas losing. Like, come on.
Yeah.
Man, it's ridiculous. Like on Twitter, you'll see anytime I post something, I'll post it's about Arkansas baseball, and I'll have a Kentucky fan in the comments. You know, like it's a little ridiculous, and you know, I got some really good Kentucky followers on Twitter. Hey, there's some good Kentucky fans out there, but there's some really bad ones, and they are just everywhere, and they pay attention to everything Arkansas does, everything. So I'm looking forward to that game. I know it's on the road. It's going to be hard. Kentucky can score as good as anybody in the country, but you know, we're not going to go in there without fighting. So it's going to be fun.
As Pigpen says here, it seems like Kentucky fans hate Cal more than they even like UK. So
you know what that reminds me of? Remember at the SEC media days for football when they were talking to Sark, Steve Sarkisian at Texas. He was saying that Arkansas fans hate Texas more than they like Arkansas, and I'm like, yeah, you know, I kind of do hate Texas. So I mean, I feel like this is the budding of a real rivalry. Like there was already the first half when they stole Eddie Sutton from Arkansas. And now we stole Calipari from Kentucky, even though they say they wanted him to go. I think they wanted to be the ones to break up. I don't think that they're the ones that wanted to get broken up with. So
yeah,
that I feel like this is going to be a great rivalry coming forward. And you know what? I'm here for it. It's not like Mizzou where it's forced, and now I hate Mizzou. And now, to me, I consider them a rivalry. But if they never existed at all, then I wouldn't care about it. Like, if they just dropped off at the face of the earth, I'd be like, oh, okay. So we got Texas and Ole Miss is over here. I don't care. Now, if Texas just dropped off the face of the earth, I'd be upset because I want to beat them. I want to see them play each other.
Yeah.
I want to see Arkansas play Kentucky in basketball. Mizzou, I couldn't care less. But I want to beat them every year. Don't get me wrong. I want to beat them.
Right.
I was about to say, and we can't talk about this without mentioning, did you guys see Cal's red nice blazer last night that he was wearing?
Yeah.
I would be remiss if I did not mention that after, you know, we talked about this last week, Austin, about how everybody was so focused on, well, why is he not necessarily wearing red? Why is he still wearing hints of blue, pocket squares, all this? He threw all that out the window last night and wore a fantastic red blazer during the game last night.
Sure, you can't tell me he didn't do that on purpose. You know, he was like, all right, I'll get the reddest suit I can find. And that's what Pigpen, put up that comment. Hey,
still salmon red, not cardinal. Hey, we got to take what we can get here. He's making progress. So
that's right.
Hey, yeah. That's
maybe he'll do some more
steps.
shopping in the off season to get a little bit, you know. Maybe he hadn't had enough time to unpack his bags and go shopping yet. We'll see, you know.
Yeah.
Transplant Texan says somebody heard all that social media outrage and picked up a red blazer and hanky for Cal. So yeah, I mean,
hey man, I don't care. I don't care if he's out there in his birthday suit. If he's winning games, I don't care.
Hey,
I don't think he's going to be taking the shirt off when we win a big game, though.
No, I don't think so.
Ripping off
Mrs.
the blazer,
Calipari won't like that.
Button up. Yeah. So yeah, fantastic stuff. Arkansas gets its first win. We have Oklahoma on Saturday, and then we're a week away from the big time matchup with Kentucky in Rupp the following Saturday. So it's fun stuff. We're gonna get ready to roll on over to some Arkansas baseball, but guys, what if you have to think of it? What's one thing that goes hand in hand with baseball? For me, sunflower seeds. That's a big one for me. So if you're a big sunflower person, go check out Smackin' Sunflower Seeds. The seeds are a bold flavor, jumbo size snack that packs a punch. With unique flavors like cinnamon churro, garlic parmesan, backyard barbecue, Smackin' Sunflower Seeds are crafted in small batches to ensure top quality. Plus, with only 380 to 540 milligrams of sodium per serving, they won't leave your mouth feeling like sandpaper. You can order now at smackinsunflowerseeds.com and enjoy free shipping on orders over $50. Plus, grab a free cinnamon churro sampler with every purchase over $50. Don't settle for the ordinary. Grab a handful of Smackin' Sunflower Seeds and elevate your snacking game. Variety Sports in all caps for 15% off your order over at Smackin' Sunflower Seeds. It is so close to baseball season. You better stock up on some sunflower seeds for the ballpark this year. It is going to be exciting.
Yeah, man. So Hobbs, you're the baseball guy. Let's hear it, dude. What's your take this year?
Oh man, where do I begin? There's a lot of excitement for this team. The past 2 years have been very disappointing. They've had good regular seasons and they've lost in the regional. So there's a lot of expectation for this team. A lot of newcomers, but very good newcomers. And I said earlier it was 23 days away. It's actually 21 days tomorrow. So we're literally 3 weeks away from the first pitch on 3 o'clock that Friday afternoon on Valentine's Day. So if you ain't got a date for Valentine's Day, just head to Baum Stadium, Baum Walker. So, the most exciting for me, because we're going to get in the pitching staff today. So I guess I'll start with this might be the best rotation in school history. Dave Van Horn mentioned in his preseason press conference, a lot in the past he's had to rely on one guy. It wasn't a full staff of guys. He relied a lot on one guy. It was Hagen Smith last year, and then everybody else. And if you look at last year, you had Hagen Smith who dominated. And then you had behind him was Brady Tigert, Mason Molina. And those guys really struggled to throw strikes. Their pitch counts got high. They, especially in SEC play, they came out of the game in the 4th and 5th inning. They couldn't get through 5-6 innings. And it really drained our bullpen. And it showed towards the end of the season because we had 2 guys go down with injury, actually 3 guys. And it really put a strain on that bullpen. And Will McIntyre had to throw a lot more. He struggled towards the end because I think he got a little tired. But and then not just last year, but even the Kevin Kopps year, he was the guy they relied on. This year, can you guess how many guys we have that we can throw in the game this year?
Like starting wise?
I'm talking about a whole staff of pitchers that
I don't know.
We have 15 guys that can pitch. I mean, this staff is extremely deep. Our whole projected starting rotations, All-Americans, every single one of them. Gabe Gackle was the closer last year. He's going to be the ace this year. It's the same thing they did with Hagen Smith. Used to be a closer, late inning guy. Now he's going to be the ace. I have full confidence in Gabe Gackle. He is ridiculously good. He's the SEC preseason pitcher of the year. I was a little surprised by that because there's a guy at Texas A&M, Ryan Prager, just ridiculously good. As a matter of fact, he went 9-1 with a 2.75 ERA last year. So I thought he was the SEC pitcher of the year. But they gave it to Gackle, and I think that has a lot of respect for Arkansas pitching. It has a lot of respect for what Hagen Smith has done, for what Kevin Kopps has done. And it all boils down to our pitching coach, Matt Hobbs. And I'm going to tell you right now, there's another guy coming. I don't know who it's going to be, but there's going to be another guy that shoots out of there that we aren't expecting to, that's developed a pitch, and he's going to be unhittable. Whether it be Christian Fouch, whether it be one of these freshmen we got, I can see it happening big time.
Yeah.
Yeah. You can go ahead, Caleb.
I was just going to say, one of those guys I'm excited to see, for you guys that are very familiar with baseball, and the name sounds familiar, Carson Wiggins is a guy I'm excited about. He's a guy that Arkansas didn't really think they were going to get to campus. There was a guy that they really thought he was going to get drafted high enough and, decided to take that contract and work his way up through the minors. But, Jackson Wiggins' younger brother, and it has the opportunity to be much better than he was, has much, a more, pitching, arsenal with different types of pitches other than, if you thought about Jackson Wiggins, you thought all gas, straight fastballs, power thrower. Carson's a little bit different. He can throw the power, but he's also got some other different pitches in his, tool bag there that he can bring in and help these guys out.
Yeah, and then you didn't mention it though, but so Gabe Gackle, not only SEC Pitcher of the Year, but who was it? D1 Baseball, they released their preseason All-Americans too, and Gabe Gackle is one of the pitchers on it, and then Zach Root. Mm-hmm. Now Zach Root is he's a transfer from East Carolina, right? He was their ace, wasn't he? Or one of their starters.
Yeah. I mentioned the whole starting rotations of All-Americans. I didn't say their names. I was going to get into that. But, yeah, Zach Root is probably the most exciting transfer that I am looking forward to. The guy is phenomenal. There was a lot, and I'm talking about almost every SEC team, LSU, Texas A&M, Mississippi State. They all wanted this guy, and he chose Arkansas. So he wants to be here. He's a phenomenal person, even better pitcher, and he's got a very unique windup that keeps hitters off balance. Just wait until you see him pitch. It's pretty unique to see his windup. He's phenomenal.
So who's the third guy going to be? Since we're
the third guy is so just bear with me. I'm pretty sure I'm pronouncing his name right because I've done some research on this. And I'm pretty sure that the commentators for the SEC are going to mess this up. Landon Bottle Cheese. That is how you pronounce it. His nickname is Big Cheese. So Landon Bottle Cheese. He's a junior from Ohio State. Now, he's never pitched in the SEC. Big Ten's not the greatest baseball conference. But he's big. He's a big boy. 6'3", 225-pound lefty. He throws strikes. Throws hard. Kind of reminds me of the Mason Molina transfer we got, but I think he's going to be a little bit more consistent than Molina. Molina really struggled with control last year. But Landon is a phenomenal pitcher. So I think he's probably, if I would have had a guess, I think he's going to be our Sunday starter. But Dave Van Horn hasn't locked anybody in but Gabe Gackle yet.
Gotcha. And if that name is German, that's exactly how you pronounce it.
That's
Bottle cheese. Yeah. I'm doing Duolingo German, so I'm.
So you know
it looks very German. Yeah.
Yeah, I got it right. So that's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
man.
then I was going to say that another guy that, be on the lookout for that could quietly come along here. You got Oregon State transfer Aiden Jimenez that, didn't play last season due to, having some Tommy John surgery on that elbow. But before that, his freshman year at Oregon State had a fantastic freshman year. So, he's redshirted due to injury last year. Coming back, Dave Van Horn said he was very much ahead of schedule as far as his recovery goes in that press conference. Talking about he was a guy that originally, they thought they would get him back midseason. Now it looks like they could potentially have him for the start of the season as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Aiden, he's so there's three guys that are injured right now in the rotation. So Aiden is the guy that's the farthest along. He's not the farthest along, but he's the farthest back. So he's the most unready pitcher out of the three. The other two are Colin Fisher, who had a phenomenal freshman year. And when he went down last year, if we would have had him, I think we could have got out of that regional. And then another highly sought after guy in the draft, Hunter Dietz. He only got to throw one inning last year. He only appeared in 2 games. And there's a clip of him striking out one of the best SEC hitters, Jason Jones from LSU, big boy. He's got the stuff, and he could be as good as Hagen Smith, Kevin Kopps, if he's healthy. And another guy that's hurt, Aiden Jimenez, like you mentioned, he's probably not going to be ready right at the start. The Arkansas Athletic Trainer Corey Wood said there's a possibility he could pitch opening weekend, but I think with how many arms we have, they're not going to rush him. They're probably going to pitch him in a midweek game when he's ready. And like Dave Van Horn, you'll probably see him, I would guess, March when we're in the midweek games, maybe against like a Grambling. Get him in there to work a few things, and then get him ready for SEC play. But like you mentioned, he's a great pitcher. He's just another one of those guys that has the stuff, and we could use out of the bullpen. Could be a starter depending on how Vital Cheese and Root are doing. I think Yackel's locked in. He's a real deal. You're not going to really see him struggle much. But yeah, you could definitely see Jimenez in there.
So I can't believe we've gone this whole time and not even said his name yet. Will McIntyre, right?
Well, there's 15 guys. We got so many guys to talk about here. I mean, we can go all night talking about these guys.
Redshirt senior coming back. I mean, he was a big deal. Great closer. Was he a relief guy or was he a closer?
All of the above.
It's been a whole year.
All of the above.
So he's
Starter,
just a guy that
reliever,
can come in there,
closer, you name it.
Yeah, he just comes in and he can just do what he needs to do. He's a workhorse. And I mean, how big was him coming back for one more season?
It's huge. Not only for the rotation, but for the dugout. I mean, these guys have Will McIntyre. You're talking about guys like Carson Wiggins, Cole Gibbler, who we had mentioned, 2 freshmen that are in the top 75 of the best freshmen in the country. They can look to Will. He's been in Arkansas forever, it seems like now. And, I'll never forget the Auburn game in the College World Series where he just dominated. And I think a lot of folks are saying, oh, he can't pitch in the SEC anymore. He threw a lot of innings last year. I think it was 84.2 innings. He was relied on a lot last year with the injuries we had. They're not going to have to rely on him so much now. Now, if he comes in the game and gets hot and keeps getting guys out, yeah, he'll finish the game because Dave Van Horn is not going to take somebody out that's reeling and dealing. But it's absolutely huge for the locker room, the dugout, and we'll get into that part of it, the dugout. It's very interesting this year. There's a lot of personality on this team that you haven't seen before. I'm talking about pimping home runs. I'm talking about getting crazy. These guys have the attitude that you want to see.
I was about to say that's something you hadn't seen from the Arkansas team in a couple seasons. Some excitement, some fun in that dugout. It's been all business kind of type mentality that you see. You see your opponents' dugouts chirping and things like that, and then you see our dugout, and they get excited in some big games, but for the most part, not a ton. So I'm excited to see what these guys come up with. Pigpen, to answer your question here, Austin Ledbetter, he is not playing both sports. He talked to Dave Van Horn after last season, and joined the football team, and he decided to go back with football, and probably because there's a lot of depth in this room, and not saying he's bad or anything, but I mean he probably want to go back and pursue some football. But this is going to be an exciting season. Pigpen, 100% there. We were so spoiled by Hagen Smith last year. The rest of our pitchers looked mid. He was just unbelievable last year. And when you have that type of guy with that consistency he brought, he had one bad game opening weekend against James Madison, but rest of the season, for the most part, untouchable. And then when you have guys like Brady Tiger and Mason Molina come in following that in the weekend rotation, your expectations are going to be so high that, those guys had a tough time kind of being at that level.
And, the crazy thing about last year, I mean, if the offense was just a little bit better, or if they connected a little bit more on some balls, this team probably would have been significantly better going through conference and probably would have got out of the regional. So it's crazy how we think of like Brady Tiger and Mason Molina as mid, but like that's Arkansas standards. To the rest of the nation, I mean, they probably could have been starters. Maybe not every SEC school, but at other SEC schools, they could have been an ace, definitely. In the Big 12 and around everywhere else, Big 10 for sure. These guys were good, but in the SEC and in Arkansas, for the standards we have, they were mid, and it's just crazy how good Arkansas almost was, or how just a little bit they could have made in just tweaks anywhere, in the backup pitchers or in on offense, and they would have been elite, but it just kind of fell short last year. And I feel like the reason why Arkansas was overhyped more or less, I mean, there was a lot of hype coming in with Wahiba Aloy, right? And some guys in the dugout, but really, I mean, Hagen Smith, we really didn't know. We knew he was good, but we didn't know how great he was going to be until that performance against Oregon, where he had, what was it, like 17 Ks or 18?
Yeah, that was almost a year ago. That was down in Texas at the Ranger Stadium against Oregon State. They couldn't touch him. Struck out I think it was a top 3 overall pick 3-4 times. That was a phenomenal performance. You're never going to forget that. But you talk about, really last year with the hitting, there's a few things with the hitting, and we can get into all the offensive players another show, because there's a lot of newcomers, and the offense has completely changed. This is a whole new offense. You're not going to believe it when you see it. But the offense really started to get going a little bit towards the end of the year. But what didn't happen was the pitching didn't hold up their end of the stick towards the end, because I think they were carrying a lot of the load. Arms got tired. Like I said, McIntyre pitched so much. And then once you had Hagen and Gackle Friday, unstoppable. You're going to win that game if you score 1 or 2 runs. And then after that, it was questionable. And if you look at the Kansas State game, that was the crucial game. The second game of the regional was the most crucial game in regional College World Series. This is the most crucial game. Puts you in the driver's seat. You don't win that game, you got to win 3 or 4 in a row, instead of actually winning 1 after you win the second game. and that we had the lead. They hit a little. They got a few hits on Hagan, and we couldn't bounce back from it. And then I think the next game we were just deflated. But the offense really, Peyton Holt really carried a lot of the load last year when he started to play more. But this is definitely a lot more. Another guy that we'll talk about a lot, that's the key factor to this year's team. I don't care what anybody says. He is the guy that if he is doing what he can do, this team is going to go a long way. And that's Ryder Helford. He went to Cape Cod and destroyed baseballs in the summer. Led all of Cape Cod Summer League in home runs. And last year, he was hitting balls 100 miles an hour as a freshman, but they were going right to people. So if those balls are going over the fence in the gaps this year, it's a whole different team. Because I can tell you, there's that kid hits balls ridiculously hard. They comparing to Mike Trout. I mean, that's so.
That's not a bad comparison.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he was a highly touted guy coming in last year, and it's like you said, he had the power last year, but it's just going straight to these guys.
Mm-hmm.
It's been a long while since Arkansas's had a pitcher that is really good behind the plate and on the plate batting. So I'm excited. It's going to be big. But, one thing that, Dave Van Horn mentioned it, talking about the offense just a little bit here, is, and it says, like Joe says here, expect a ton of bags to be stolen this year.
Mm-hmm.
This team has some speed. That's what Dave Van Horn mentioned, if you think about back to that press conference that he had after that regional loss, talking about we kind of relied too much on the home run ball, the long ball, that, Arkansas has gotten away from, being able to, have guys hit those singles, doubles, every now and then triples that can, move guys, across the base pads and across the plate. And like Pigpen said here, 4 words that haunted us all last season: runners in scoring position. If we were just a little bit better about putting in singles and doubles, hitting the gaps, you add a few more wins to last year's win total, and you're looking at a different scenario when, getting out of the regional and things like that. So they definitely did overall, like you said, this is going to be a completely different offense this year. You're going to see a lot more speed. You're going to see a lot more steal attempts than what we had last year in the past few years. Not as much reliability on the long ball. I'm not saying that we're not going to use it as much as we got it. We've got the power on the team. You think of Ryder Helfrich, Nolan Souza, Vahiva Loy, guys that, are just known for destroying the baseball, along with some of these other guys that we'll talk about in a different episode talking about the offense. It's going to be an exciting year, and I'm excited. But, flipping back to some pitching, some guys we haven't talked about, like you said, there's 15 of these guys to talk about here. Some familiar names that are still here and can give you some crucial innings when needed. You got to think about a guy like Ben Bybee. He's a junior.
Mm-hmm.
You got Dylan Carter coming back for a fifth-year senior. We haven't mentioned this name, Gage Wood, a guy that's intensity to the max when he's out on that plate. So you got some great veterans in this lineup as well as some of these younger guys and these talented guys. It's like it seems like every year Arkansas is one thing away from, really, putting it all together. It's like either your pitching is okay, hitting is great, or vice versa. You got, your hitting's manageable and your pitching is great stuff. So, if, this year, not trying to necessarily jinx anything, but, if what we're hearing and what Dave's talking about with how this team goes, if we can put those things together with the hype with this team, with the depth of this pitching staff, the kind of retooling and reloading of this offense, I mean, that's really what you're looking for is, being able to put those two pieces of the game together. Because the one thing that no matter, what year, what team it is, you look at any of these Dave Van Horn teams throughout the years, one thing is always 100% certain, and that is Dave Van Horn is going to always have a solid team defensively.
Mm-hmm.
They may not be the best hitting or maybe not the best pitching, but they're going to be a solid defensive unit in the infield and the outfield.
Yeah, I like last year I was really missing that what was his name? Oh my gosh, I can't believe it. Shortstop.
Jalen Battles.
Yeah, I missed that. Jalen Battles.
Battles to Robert Moore.
Yeah, Robert Moore and Jalen Battles. I love that second and shortstop combination. And then they both sadly had to leave. And the thing is, I don't think Behivaloy's that bad. And Stovall played second, right?
Mm-hmm.
Last year. Who's going there now? Is Behiva's going to stay at short? I would imagine.
I believe it's Nolan Souza, right?
So that's a big, more of a close battle than you think it is. Souza, a lot of people are saying it's Souza, but there's a guy that came in. Nolan Souza's great. I think he's going to make a great sophomore jump. But Nolan Souza did struggle a lot towards the end of the year. He couldn't even touch the baseball. He struggled really hard where it got to the point where they couldn't even put him in the lineup. But, it's been an off season. He's been in the weight room. I expect a huge sophomore jump. But there is a guy that's played in the SEC. He showed it that he can play in the SEC. Very good athlete. He hits for average. Cam Kozel from Vanderbilt is transferred in. He is going to compete for that position. So they're both going to get playing time. I'm excited to see both of them play. So Cam doesn't hit for a lot of power, but he hit 291 at Vanderbilt last year. He's got a little bit of speed, and we know Souza's power. So I think they're both going to play. So it's going to be interesting to see who gets that spot.
So you're talking about the competition at second, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, cool.
Right.
I've also heard.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say I've also heard Cam Kozel's name thrown out as potentially getting some action over first base as well.
Oh man, the whole team's trying out at first base. I think Dave Van Horn said 7 guys because, like you mentioned, he is huge on defense, and first baseman is one of the most important positions. I mean, we had Stovall play there as a freshman because of his glove. We've kind of been spoiled with Stovall, Brady Slavens, Jared Gates was on that team that went all the way to the championship. We've been spoiled, even going as far back as Andy Wilkins and Danny Hamlin playing first base. So he's wanting to get somebody that has the glove. You've got, Aloy is over there trying out. Will Heavis' brother is over there. You've got Reese Robinette, who is a big boy, got a lot of power. Very excited for him to be back on this team. He had a huge home run at LSU his freshman year. You got Aloy, Kozel, even a guy like Rocco Pepe, who is, I'm talking about, man, we got to get this guy in the lineup. So he's going to be somewhere. This dude hits baseballs a long way. I think he had 14 home runs at Fresno State last year. A lot of personality. When he hits home
what
run,
a baseball name, Rocco Pepe. Like,
that's what I'm saying. He's going to be a fan favorite too. These people are going to love this kid, and he is a big boy. I'm talking about. He's got some muscle now, so he's got to be in the lineup somewhere. He's normally an outfield or DH, but he's trying whoever the best fielder is at first base. Like the offense, and we'll dig in more about the offense, but this is one of the best offenses we've had in a long time, and it's depth. We've got guys that they're going to be competing, which I love the most for playing time, because last year we didn't have it. We had to play Diggs, and the whole season when he had a torn shoulder, because we didn't have anybody else to put in. There was nobody else to go to. So this year is not the case. And just one more note on this, on the base running here. I've got a neat stat here for you. So I made a tweet, a few weeks ago, and it's a little far-fetched, but, I'll shoot for the stars here. I said that Arkansas was going to lead the nation in stolen bases this year. Now, we may not lead the nation, but I think we're going to come close to if not leading the SEC in stolen bases. And here's why. Guys that we brought in, Davalon had 13 stolen bases last year. Maxwell had 10. Thomas had 35. Pepe had 6. Iredale had 24. And Peterson had 25. If you add all those together, you get 113 stolen bases. And that's not including the other guys on the team. And Kentucky led the SEC in stolen bases last year with 120. So, it's not as far-fetched as you think.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's an interesting.
be great.
I'd love to see that.
And that's the thing is that I guess we're going to talk a little bit about it, but it's not exciting. It isn't. Like, small ball isn't exciting to like just a random person. Everyone wants to see it go yard, right? But to me, I'm like, dude, I just want to see them hit a bunt. I just want to see them hit.
Yeah.
I just want to see them execute a bunt in a single and maybe a double every once in a while. Let's just do that. Like, you can win by hitting singles. Just hit singles. So that's what I really, really, really want to see.
It's like put the ball in the gap. Like, come on, guys.
Yeah.
Like, let's advance these guys from second to third to home with those singles and doubles.
And you know what? I'm not going to, get into all the details yet, but that's who these guys are, who we brought in. That's what they do. So it's very interesting. It's going to be very exciting to see this. But back to the pitching a little bit. We talked about Carson Wiggins being a huge freshman. You talked about his stuff a little bit. Wait until you see it. I mean, because we think about, I don't know if you can think as far back as Jackson, his older brother. When he came in the game, one or two things were happening. You knew he was going to throw fast, hard, but you didn't know if he's going to throw it over the plate. That ball was either 6 feet above the catcher's mitt or it was going down the middle. We didn't know. And then they made him a starter his last year here. He did fairly well, ended up being a 4th-round pick, still playing in the Chicago Cubs minor league system. So I'm happy for Jackson. But his little brother is better. He has got the stuff. I mean, if you can, it's on my Twitter. I think you can scroll back on it. But they did a video of him pitching in the USA game, and his stuff is phenomenal. I'm talking about slider, fastball, changeup. He's got another pitch in there. I don't even know what he calls it. And I'm sure Matt Hobbs is in there teaching him another pitch. But he's got ridiculous stuff, throws over 100 plus. And I don't know how exactly they're going to use him this year. I don't know if he's going to come in right after Gabe, if he's going to be that first guy out of the pen. I think he's going to be McIntyre to start the year. But Christian Fouch, we haven't mentioned him really much. Another hard thrower who had a 0.81 ERA last year. I mean, just ridiculous. I think he's probably the next Kevin Kopps could be with the pitch. He could coming into his junior year, draft eligible. There's a lot of people saying he could be the first reliever taken off the board in the MLB draft. But those two guys in the back end of this bullpen, which I think Wiggins is going to be a back end guy because Fouch can't close the game every game. So I think they're both going to be the closers on this team. And, those guys are the heart and soul of this team. The closers, you look at Arkansas baseball, the reason they've been able to be so successful in the SEC and win 40-plus games 7 years in a row is because they closed games out. And you look at Gabe Gackle, Hagen Smith closing games out, Kevin Kopps. With Fouch and Wiggins this year, they're the guys that are carrying the torch for now.
Yeah, you go from having Kevin Kopps to quote unquote calling the cops to this year with Christian Fouch. You're gonna be he got the nickname the fireman. So
yeah,
rightfully so. They're bringing all that heat. It's gonna be exciting. I mean, this up and down. It's like we said, you got 15 guys up and down this lineup that are going to be, contributors. Another guy that we didn't mention a while ago that's a returner that will bring some experience. Parker Coyle.
Yes.
Dave Van Horn said made improvements last year.
Mm-hmm.
Struggled a little bit, in his few outings last year. A guy that hopefully we can see this year, continue to make strides forward in his game.
Yeah, Parker. One thing I love about Parker, he's got the spirit. He's got that. Every time he comes in, he's coming off the mound, fired up. And he's the strike thrower. He's not going to walk people. He's going to come in the game. He's going to eat up innings. And I can't remember what game it was last year, if it was in the Texas A&M or the SEC tournament, but he came in, he ate up 4 or 5 innings when I'm talking about people were struggling. Brady was struggling. Mason was struggling. We couldn't find somebody to throw a strike. And he came in and just reeled and dealed and threw strikes. And I tell you one thing about Dave Van Horn, if you don't throw strikes, you're not going to keep pitching. Mm-hmm. He is not going to play that game with 15 people on the staff that can pitch. So he loves the strike throwers. So I can see Parker Coyle getting a lot of time this year. And another strike thrower, Cole Gibbler. Watch out for Cole Gibbler. Freshman, one of the best freshmen in the country. We're lucky to have him. He turned down money, could have went pro, turned down money to come here. Another reason he came here, Matt Hobbs, Arkansas pitching, to develop him. He is a strike thrower, freshman. These guys don't know anything about him. They're not going to be able to hit him. I expect a very good season from him. Kind of reminds me of Gabe Gackle coming in last year as a freshman. He's got great stuff. Went to a lot of pitching academies. Been coached by a lot of great coaches. I think he's the 57th best freshman. Yeah, 57th best freshman by perfect game. He's going to get his opportunity. I don't know how they're going to use him, whether it be a midweek game. But if he's pitching good, he's going to get his chance to get guys out in the SEC.
I think that's the key question, this year is going to be, with the amount of depth we have, is how to use all these guys. What roles are these guys going to be in? You could see shifts throughout the season, and so guys come in certain scenarios, things like that. Depending on matchups, right on left, left on right, things like that. So it's going to be fun to see how Matt Hobbs and Dave Van Horn kind of use and play chess with some of these relievers and these guys in the bullpen. Other than these guys that are expected to be, your key go-to starters, like your Gackle, your Root, and so it's going to be fun. It's going to be a fun season, I think. Let's jump over to the comment section for a minute. We gotten kind of busy here. Here you go, Austin. Just a bit outside, so Clemson all the way.
Yeah. Hey, if you're still in here, I cover Clemson too, so as long as they're not playing Arkansas in the tournament, then I'm going to be rooting for them. But yeah, hey man, that's cool. If you want, go follow Rubbing the Rock, and that's my site over at Fansided. So
yeah, Joe says could be worse. You could say other Tiger teams, so that's fair.
That's true.
Yeah. But you look at it. Interesting question here. Joe says, will the brothers, and I'm talking about the Viva Aloy and Cahillo Aloy, potentially play second shortstop combo?
No. The only place that still learning his name, Kia, is going to play is either going to be first, left field, maybe right field, or DH. He's not going to play a corner. He's not going to play third or second. He doesn't have the glove. I mean, he's got a decent glove. Don't get me wrong, but he can't make the second base and third base plays. He's either going to be a corner outfield or first baseman, or he'll be a DH. But he will. His bat's too good. I mean, he had the highest exit velocity of any hitter in the fall on the team. So
I was about to say that was his role at BYU. Was he purely DH for them? for most of the season was their go-to DH.
And right, we talked about the whole team's trying out at first base. So reminds me of the Moneyball movie where they go in the house and he's like, I've never played first base before. Is it hard? And Brad Pitt's like, no, it's not hard. And the other guy's like, it's extremely hard. So,
Yeah. And to answer your question, Joe, yes, we have a Rocco Pepe from Fresno State. Go look up some highlights of him. But yes, Pigpen, he is that dude with the Popeye arms. Never met a dumbbell he didn't like. If you missed it, he was tagged in a post with, I believe it was Ryder Helfrich the other day on Instagram, kind of debuting their new uniforms. And man looked like he is about to bust the seams on those sleeves. Man, so has a pretty sweet forearm tattoo and everything.
Both of them are big boys, and both of them can hit the ball a long way at any given time. 30-plus home runs combined between them two.
Yeah. Pigpen says, getting Dave to bunt and steal is like pulling teeth.
I'm not so sure anymore. At some point, you get a guy that's been disappointed so many times that he's willing to change it up a little bit. You watched the press conference at the end of the regional last year. He was not happy, and he already said that he was already discussing changing the offense during the season. They've been working on this team for years now. This has not been a we're going to change it right now. This has been a work in progress. So this is something that he is going to do. Now, Dave, when you have a runner on second and third and one out and you got Aloy or Helfrich up, he's not going to bunt the ball, okay? You're going to have to depend on them guys to put the ball in the gap, put in the outfield, get a run in. But when you got a guy like Charles Davalon or Justin Thomas, you could see that. But, the whole point of changing this offense is for when we get into the dog days of summer and we've got a guy on the mound opposed to us that's willing and dealing, and it's hard to hit him, and we've got to create some offense. This is the whole thing that trying to get runners in scoring position and creating offense is big. Now we still are going to be able to hit home runs. But we've got pretty much everybody guy in the lineup can run. So any ball in the gap with a runner on first, he's probably scoring. There's going to be a lot. And even Dave said, we're going to get thrown out. And you know what that means? That means he's going to run the bases because you can't get thrown out without running the bases. Now, you're going to get caught sometimes, but we've got guys that can steal a bag in a second. And it's going to be fun to watch.
Yeah. This one here is for you, Austin. You mentioned it a while ago. We might just have to get you a specialty one of these. Joe says, put it on a shirt. Just hit singles.
Yeah. I'd wear it.
Just for the show. So there you go. Pigpen says, I'm not 100% sure on this one. Is it known who the most paid player is on the team?
It's hard to know about baseball, man. It really is.
Yeah, it's not as much like football or basketball where those deals are more public. Baseball is a lot more complicated because you get into dealing with guys that have half scholarships, a third scholarship, the way they can break up those things like that. But this could be the case, Pigpen, with 15 pitchers like that. Dave must got a few pennies in the NIL account. I'm sure he got a nice little help there with wanting to get to that next level with some of these guys, and being able to get some of those guys like we talked about that turn down money to come here. They didn't just, they wanted to come here for some development stuff. They didn't just come here though. They're going to, they probably got a decent little check.
They didn't really turn down NIL money. They turned down Major League Baseball money.
Exactly.
This isn't, the NIL is not like college basketball and football. That's what I love about baseball. They don't get the money that football and basketball does. A lot of this players coming to play here are because of the coaches we have, the reputation we have. We have the best coaching, some of the best coaches in the country. We've built a reputation of pitchers wanting to come here because they get high drafted. And believe it or not, the naysayers about Nate Thompson, he has produced the most hitters to the MLB of any other coach in the country since 2018. So those hitters know it. They want to come here. And, you know, the bad luck is going to flip someday.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, you know, I feel there's just something about the guys who play baseball. Like the guys at football and basketball, I love all of them for being a Hog, but there's just like more of a kind of me aspect of it, if that makes sense, especially basketball. And I mean, that goes all the way up to the pros. Like it just feels like it's more of a, I'm here for the love of the game for baseball guys. Now, I mean, it's different in the majors, but I feel like there's more of that in college baseball than there is in basketball and in football, especially in the SEC.
Well, think about it. These guys start playing in February, so they start practicing. Well, they play spring and fall ball too, but they start in January practicing. They start the season in February. By the time they get to conference play, it's late March, early April. School's about to be out. They get into the dog days of the SEC NCAA tournament in May, June. School's out. All they have is each other. They're living in dorms together. They're living in apartments together. They're very close friends. And that's all they have. And they're playing for each other. And that's what Dave was talking about. This team's very close. They got a lot of personality. And that's another reason why, if you watch Will McIntyre's, after the season last year, he's very sad because he's like, all my friends, I've seen them come and go. But he decided to come back. So, you know, baseball is more of a brotherhood.
Yeah. I mean, just look at it compared to the other sports. You have, you know, former pro Hogs in football and basketball that come back and visit, but, you know, it's not anywhere close. It doesn't even touch the amount of guys that come back to, you know, this Arkansas baseball program, the development, the facilities. You know, a lot of these pro guys, they built each of them specific like locker rooms, like their own personal locker here for them to come back in the off season and come back and work at, you know, these up-to-date high-tech, you know, development facilities that we have here. And, you know, that all starts with DVH. He built the culture here. He built the, you know, what Arkansas baseball is, you know, continued building after, you know, some of the things that was already brought before him, and then really taking it to, you know, that next level. And, you know, it is one of those things where baseball is ultra special. You know, I think that's why a lot of people here in Northwest Arkansas and in, you know, our Razorback fans around the country really love baseball, because any given day you see different players returning to the hill, off-season pro players, whatever it may be. You know, these guys are coming back, and, you know, I think that just tells you what kind of place that Dave's built here in his years. It's, you know, this Arkansas baseball program is a flat-out machine cranking out success. Fantastic players. And it's like you hinted at, not many teams win 40 games and, you know, for 7 straight seasons.
Only other team's been Southern Miss. That's it.
And I mean, that tells you that right there, that what's built here is insane. You know, Joe says J-Bo, aka J, just a bit outside, is my guy from the Ryan Ripken family. He's in South Carolina. And then he also says, hey, I'll adopt the Hogs as my SEC team in baseball this year. Love to hear that.
We can be best buds.
Oh, yeah. You and Austin get along great.
Yeah, I used to live in Sumter, so if you're around there, you know, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, we have a few more comments and get ready to wrap up here. But Joe says, you know, kind of back to the NIL situation. Do you think baseball really worries about NIL as much, though? I mean, you need to draft high in baseball to make money.
You know, like I said, I don't know the exact number, but I think it's only 5% that baseball gets of NIL. It's not much at all. So you're really spreading that around. I think LSU probably has the most money. I mean, they always have a loaded transfer portal, but these guys, they choose to come here because when you play in the SEC, it's almost like you're playing in minor league baseball. You get extremely ready. Like there's experts saying Hagen Smith could be pitching the MLB this year at some point because he's almost ready, and the White Sox are horrible. So you could see him by June or July pitching in the big leagues. So this is really like a farm system. Dave said it was semi-pro now. A lot of these guys come here to get ready for the MLB draft to make the money. That's what they're trying to do. And he did say there are some players that you have to, show them, to care about the Razorback way, to try to play for the school and not just be come here and out of here. But you don't see that much in baseball. Like Cole Gibbler, he came here knowing he can't be drafted for another couple of years because he wanted to develop under Matt Hobbs because he's seen what Matt Hobbs has done with the pitchers he's had. So there's that aspect. Unfortunately, it doesn't work for everybody because that's what happened to our team last year. We had 3 guys that were supposed to be hitters that were supposed to be on our team. It's guys with speed, gap power, and they all got drafted and signed with their team. And they didn't come to campus. So that hurt our offense a lot last year. That was another factor that played in that because we lost 3 outfielders the year before that to the MLB draft. So it's hard to replace that if you don't get the guys that you recruited in. But we fixed that problem this year.
Oh, yeah, 100%. And one last little chat we'll take a look at before we wrap up and get out of here. Pigpen says, hopefully we don't get in a situation where the SEC tournament hurts us like last year where we dreaded putting our pitchers out there before regionals.
Man, I hate the SEC tournament. It's a waste of time. I think Dave Van Horn and a lot of other SEC coaches feel the same way. The only teams that it benefits the fans that like Hoover. I'll give you that. But the only teams it benefits are the teams on the bubble. Teams on the bubble like Florida last year, you get a win or 2 in the SEC tournament, you get in the regional. But if you have a season where you win 20 SEC games or so, if you go 2-0 in the SEC tournament, it doesn't affect you. It doesn't affect your national seeding because at the end of the day, they're going to put the regionals of teams that are close by. It's that every way. That's why we always get TCU, Oklahoma State. We get those kind of teams because they're not that far away. So it really doesn't. The SEC tournament, I wish they would just do away with it, but you got to play it. We've won one of them. That was a lot of fun. I'll give you that. That was a lot of fun beating Tennessee in the SEC championship that one year, but.
It's like if you're going to make an effort, just make a run and win the whole thing.
Exactly.
Like it's either 2-0 or just win the whole thing. That's the only options.
Yep.
So fantastic stuff with baseball. Talking about that pitching room, going to be dynamic this year. Can't wait to see it. We'll on some future episodes, we'll break down the offense, some infield, some outfield, what we're looking at there. And hey, before you know it, baseball season opening weekend is going to be here. Another quick little update for you. Gymnastics tomorrow night going on at 6:45. The defending national champion LSU Tigers are coming to Bud Walton, the Palace, to take on your Arkansas Razorbacks. So, all the meets in Bud this year. Get out there and go. I'll be there. My wife and I have season tickets. We've really gotten into gymnastics. If you haven't watched it, put it on TV. They call it Friday Night Heights on the SEC Network. It is fantastic to see, what some of these athletes, these ladies do. It's fantastic. But, hey, we'll be right back here on Sunday for your Razor Recap talking about the Oklahoma game. We'll talk about that gymnastics meet and, keep getting ready for baseball season. Great to have RazorbackHobbs for us. His first appearance of many for going into this baseball season.
Absolutely.
Me and Austin back here. These normal faces you see every time. And so anything else from you guys before we get out of here?
Whoopee. That's it.
Yeah, just excited to be here. Looking forward to more.
Excited.
We
I
beat
agree.
Oklahoma and then Kentucky. That's what I'm looking forward to
Amen.
now.
Exactly. Thank you everybody for tuning in. If you haven't, make sure to hit that like and subscribe button on YouTube. Let you know every time we go live. That way you can be tuned in. You can find us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you get your podcast. We're live on Facebook, Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it, YouTube. You can find us in all those places. So make sure to check us out there. Again, hit that like and subscribe button. Really helps us out here. And until Sunday, you guys have a great Friday and great weekend. And we'll see you on Sunday for our Razor recap.